lcpioneers.com live, presented by Pios Stream. We broadcast 4 days a week, Tuesday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. live on Facebook Live. You can find that easily, lcpioneers.com/live, and also archived to watch after the show, youtube.com/lcpios, keeping you connected with student athletes, coaches, alumni, and members from our Lewis and Clark College community all summer long until the fall 2020 semester begins again. Hi everyone, I am Ryan Goff. I am the play-by-play voice and director of athletic communications for Lewis and Clark. We are the Pioneers out of Portland, Oregon, competing in the NCAA Division III level with other institutions from throughout Northwest Oregon and the state of Washington as a member of the Northwest Conference and nationwide via over 430 institutions at the NCAA Division III level. Today we have a guest host. In a few moments we'll bring in Matt Brown. He is a rising senior for Lewis and Clark men's basketball, and he will host a show and bring in our guest, Daelon Floyd, who is a classmate of his and a teammate in his fourth season with Lewis and Clark men's basketball. We're excited to do that in just a few moments. I invite you to follow us on social media, and as I mentioned, you can also find all of our past shows available at youtube.com/lcpios. And so with that, we bring in Matt Brown. Matt Brown is a rising senior for Lewis and Clark men's basketball. Matt, appreciate you taking the time to host our show today, and excited to have you on in the future, because this is something, you got here as a sophomore. This will be your third year coming up. This is something we've talked about for a couple of years now, is bringing you into the fold. And that came up because of a conversation you shared with me where you brought up this idea of using uninterrupted, inspired conversations. What was it about that platform, Uninterrupted? What is it, and why did you want to bring that to Lewis and Clark?
No, thank you, Ryan, for having me on the show. I'm really excited. But yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for the past 2 years, and the biggest thing about Uninterrupted, for people who don't know, it's very unfiltered content. You might have heard of like one of their slogans. It's like more than an athlete, ran by LeBron James. And being an athlete at Lewis and Clark College, I feel every athlete thinks that we are more than an athlete. So definitely, after just spending a year networking with LC alums and talking with the Career Center, the Bates Center, and just networking through them, we wanted to bring, just a way for past alumni and just have that cross-generational connection beyond LinkedIn or anything. We really wanted to have all the alumni really get to know the current student athletes and students at Lewis and Clark College.
Well, we are excited to have that opportunity today. Appreciate giving us your time. When we come back, Matt Brown guest hosts this edition of lcpioneers.com live. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I think everyone should take intro to chemistry because the chemistry department here is phenomenal. Everyone I've known has had a good experience with everyone in that department, so I think it's a worthwhile course to take.
What is one class that everyone should take at Lewis and Clark? I really enjoyed Education in a Complex World. You kind of get to discuss all the issues that exist within education today, and you get to kind of explore that by going to classrooms firsthand and volunteering with children, which I thought was a really wonderful experience.
One class that everybody should take at Lewis and Clark is anything with Kundai Chirindo. I think he definitely changed how I thought about rhetoric and media studies and just education in general.
For me, it was international affairs, just intro to international affairs, because I think it really gives a good perspective on important issues around the world.
Hey, welcome back. You're watching lcpioneers.com live. I'm Matt Brown, and I'm today's host. But today we have a special guest, a really good friend and a teammate of mine. I would like to introduce you to Daelon Floyd.
Hi, I'm Daelon. I'm a rising senior. I'm a rhetoric and media studies major, art history minor, and right now I'm into photography. I do modeling in Portland, and I'm just a local kid from the PDX. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem, man. I'm excited to talk to you, man, especially with everything going on and everything, man. I mean, we can jump right into it. So one of the first questions I had for you, just, ideology plays a big part into really everything, but specifically about systemic racism. And I really want to target, the ideology that plays into the education system and the prison system. And what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean that's what's cool about that is I learned about this year, which thank God for Lewis and Clark's education. I wouldn't have known about this, but yeah, ideology plays a huge part in like how we navigate the world, and especially as a black man and for black women, um, ideological framework that was created wasn't built for us. Um, I learned that there's two frameworks when it comes to ideology. There's call them apparatuses. There's a repressive apparatus, and then there's the ideological state apparatus. And both of those work together to oppress and suppress Black bodies. And so, what those look like is one, ideological state apparatuses are like the education system, for one, and then like a repressive apparatus would be the police system, which is what we're dealing with right now. And like those work hand in hand to one, educate us, and they're supposed to protect us at the same time. And right now, they're not doing their jobs correctly, which leads to um, what we have now today. And that's what we really cool to talk about right now because, like, if we could fix that, then we could fix a lot of issues that go around in America today.
No, yeah, that's very interesting. But obviously, as you said, like they go hand in hand. So, I mean, we can't just focus on one and ignore the other. So, what do you think would be the best approach to start seeing a change in either one? Should we target education side first, as we can see like the defund the police movement, and is that gonna, affect the police brutality? What do you think?
Well, I think I would first say start with education because once you're educated, I feel like further generations from our generation going on will have the knowledge to have the mindset to think about these issues early on. Like the way most of us were taught were like I'm hearing about it on Instagram now. Like there's some things that they left out of the history books that we were growing up learning about.
Sure.
And like, if we have a generation where those history books are accurate again and that they're not being skewed and things are not being taken out of, then I feel like kids will have the knowledge and like the critical thinking skills to like think for themselves now and think and then find their own moral compasses that are not created by somebody that decided to take something out of a book that was really really important to history. And it sucks that these kids are learning about it on social media.
Yep.
Like it shouldn't be like that. It should be in the classroom where we spend most of our years, like K through 12,
Mm-hmm.
and then if you want to go to college, that's 4 more years, and then like it shouldn't take that long to learn these like values.
No, yeah, I completely agree with you. For all the listeners who just joined us, again, you're watching lcpioneers.com live. I'm Matt Brown, and we're talking with rising senior member of Lewis and Clark's men's basketball team, Daelon Floyd. So I mean, that's man, there's a lot of points you touched on. Talking about future generations, I just want to try to get like a time frame of when do you think that us investing in an education right now we're going to start reaping those benefits, like another 50 years, because obviously it doesn't change overnight, especially for generations to come.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like right now because I have a little sister and she's like a couple generations above me right now,
Mm-hmm.
and she's really smart and she like has these moral compasses already, and she got it from social media. So I feel like even like this generation right now, I say to give like an exact number, I say about like 10 years is a good amount of time for like the education system starts shifting. People are starting to be more progressive and they're starting to find themselves more.
Yeah.
And it's not like cookie cutter. People aren't just following other people. People are like going down their own paths.
Yeah.
And I feel like that will lead into like dramatic change and like we'll blink our eyes, like us being like maybe in our 30s, blink our eyes and be like, wow,
I don't want to think about
these
that,
kids
man.
really changed the world, like,
Yeah.
and like we're there to see it. And so I would just say like that framework of 10 years would be like ideal.
Yeah.
And that's when I see change.
Yeah. No, I mean that's true. I feel like it is going to take 10 years plus to get there. But definitely, like as we're in this generation of like the information generation, that information is so easy to find.
Yeah.
Do you think that people of color and who's not a minority should take the initiative of using social media as to educate themselves, or should we really wait and depend on the government to start implementing that into the education system?
No, I think what's going on right now is like what needs to happen. Like a lot of people are educating themselves on social media. That's because that's most of our lives nowadays, and that's
Yeah.
probably what's going to be in our futures too. Is social media and technology and people being really independent and learning on their own.
Yeah.
And I feel like that will lead into them, like I said, like figuring out who they are. And that could be like, man, I want to be a teacher and educate these kids that what I learned based off social media are just like maybe write these maybe like they want to do a job that's where they're writing these textbooks over again, or
Mhm.
maybe they want to be somewhere in like politics and policy where they know they have the knowledge and they have the facts to argue cases
Yeah.
to get more representation in these books that these kids are reading and growing up to.
Yeah.
So like I feel like the information right now that is through social media, I think it's cool. I think it's what's needed, and I think that's right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it definitely gives us an advantage to expedite that learning curve. What
Mhm.
would have took people 20 years ago to learn K through 12, like we can learn literally in, a year or two,
Yeah.
just the amount of information. So I think that's definitely our advantage. But I think for us, like we definitely have to seize that moment, and
Mhm.
opportunity to do that. Okay. So now transitioning a little, right? Right. So you said that you learned that about the different apparatuses in college.
Yeah.
I want to get a little personal and see, like how does the ideology that you've experienced personally growing up in PDX Washington just influenced you today and who the man you are today?
Yeah. So I like to say that I feel like I've been in both worlds of life. I've been through poverty, like the beginning half of my life, and then I'm now. I feel like call it the finer things. I've been through the finer things. Like I've
Yeah.
seen life now. I've seen like what could become.
Yeah.
I'm not suppressed by that mindset you know. And so like living in battleground, it was tough because you have to deal with a lot, and there's a lot of racism out there. There's a lot of different spaces than Portland, what I was used to when I moved out there.
Yeah.
So I had to adjust, and I feel like it was tough for a couple years to adjust to it. But like once I start figuring out like these are the people I want to hang around with, and these are the type of mindset I want to have. This is the type of life I want to live. Seeing like what I came from and coming to battleground and seeing these big houses out here, these just these nice lifestyles. I had a best friend that was just he had like the best life, and so I was like, man, like me looking at that, growing up and seeing that is like, I know I can get that for myself. So it's just a lot of like perseverance. It's a lot of just trusting the journey you're on and just believing that you can do something that wasn't set out for you.
Yeah. So definitely. Um, and again, I mean, to all this listeners just joining us again, you're watching lcpioneers.com live. I'm Matt Brown, rising senior, a member of Lewis and Clark College's men's basketball team, and joining me is a good friend, Daelon Floyd, who's also a rising senior, also on the men's basketball team. So right now we're really talking and diving into how systematic ideology of racism just has influenced us personally. I mean, Daelon, you were talking about just comparing between your experience in Washington and Portland. Um, why do you think that it was such a big difference, especially being, 50 miles apart?
And that's the crazy part. I was literally like 50 miles apart. It's literally
Yeah.
like a 30-minute drive. And there's such a difference from inner city Portland to out there in battleground. And like I said, it goes back to the apparatuses. And number one being the education. Like the schools I was going to in Portland were just, I call them like just hood rat schools. Like kids weren't paying attention in class.
Yeah.
There was no like enforcement to pay attention in class. If it was enforcement, it was like you're going to the principal's office because you're like messing around in class. Then going out to battleground, going to these nice schools that were just huge, and I'm just like, wow, like these kids look like educated, and like being around that I was like, why is there such a big difference in that? And like, how can I take advantage of this as a kid? Like, I'm like, wow, like this is nice. And so being in that space and knowing that that was available for me, like I just knew that like there was imbalance. And my mom always told me, just take advantage. Like you're gonna have to work twice as hard at this school. You have to work twice as hard, and you have to be aware of other things that most kids won't be aware of growing up. And you just have to keep battling through it. And that's all it turns out to be. And it's just a difference. And I wish if the education was similar in Portland, like say if I stayed in Portland and the education was actually like, if I stayed in those programs in those schools, I probably would end up the way I was just because of what I saw and like what was going on. Like I didn't really, like those the multiplication tables where you got to like do speed math, where it's like, well, anyway, it was like that. Like I couldn't do that there, but like once I got, the little grid, and you had to do it in like 10 minutes. But once I got to Battleground and I had teachers pour like love into me and help me through these things, I was like able to like progress quickly. And that was a crazy difference right there.
Yeah. No, definitely. Man, that's just crazy. That's mind-boggling that it's, so close together, but there's definitely a big discrepancy. So I think thinking about like the future, you brought up your little sister earlier, what you want better for her. I mean, what do you think are some steps, some real quick in the last few minutes, just some steps that we can take besides, trying to educate ourselves, but to help that education system support minorities and your little sister?
I feel like I've been thinking about this a lot too. And the one like commonality that helped me get through to where I am today at Lewis and Clark, even though I wasn't supposed to be at Lewis and Clark, was surrounding yourself around people that are like-minded and that you want to be around and you see yourself becoming. Like I didn't see that in the inner city Portland. There was nobody that was out there trying to chase something. There was nobody out there looking for something bigger. They were stuck in the bubble. I call it the pit. They were stuck in the pit, and they were there just to survive and maybe chase a hoop dream or chase something small and not significant, because that's all they're exposed to. And then going out to Battleground, I knew that there was more out there. And so like, I wish I could take a bunch of little kids that were my age right now and just show them my life, like literally just go on like a little vacation with me. Let me show you what like I've seen and what it's like out there. So you don't have to have that little, like you're not in that pit anymore. Like I'm gonna help you get out that pit of that mindset to see there's more out there. You can go to Lewis and Clark College. You come from Portland. You could do these things, and you could like, you just do these things.
Oh yeah, man. I think that's very inspirational. Just being able to have that influence on little kids, and showing them, hey, you can do better than what I've done, and and go places that that you don't usually see in those interstate scenarios and situations. But man, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure. Awesome, thank you. And again, to all the viewers, this is Daelon Floyd, rising senior at Lewis and Clark College men's basketball team. And this is you're watching it on lcpioneers.com live. We're streaming Tuesday through Thursday at 11 a.m. Pacific time on Facebook Live at lcpioneers.com/live, also archived on youtube.com/lcpioneers. Thank you again for joining us. And tomorrow we have a special guest talking to Coach Ange. So looking forward to that conversation tomorrow with Ryan. Again, enjoy your days and enjoy your day. And thank you for joining us.
Thanks for
My favorite spot on campus is like right outside the Dovecote, little benches, and there's flowers growing there, and you can get a little coffee at the Dovecote and sit there.
My favorite spot on campus is definitely the weight room. I get that everybody loves like the gardens or the manor house, but our facilities for athletics here are actually amazing too, and the weight room is definitely my favorite spot.
My favorite spot on campus would either be the glade outside of the athletic facilities or South Campus.
What is my favorite spot on campus? I really like the back porch of the manor house. It looks out on Mount Hood, and on a clear day, it's super beautiful just to sit around with friends.
I'm Ann Bentley. I'm an associate professor of chemistry, and in this research group, I supervise the 2 students working in the Rogers program this summer in our lab. The brown bag experience is a good chance for students to get experience presenting their work that they've done in the lab, especially to an audience that's not technical.
What's intriguing about the brown bag experience is it incorporates all of the Rogers program. So I'm able to hear people in the psychology department and what research they're doing, but it also gives us the opportunity to share our research with the greater science community at Lewis and Clark. And for incoming students, the summer program is really beneficial for getting opportunity in research. So I've had the opportunity for research in the past, but other students may not have the same opportunities. So it's nice to work in a professional lab setting and potentially have the opportunity to publish a paper, which looks really good moving on into doing professional research out in the field.
The students grow a lot during the summer in their ability to learn the techniques and apply the techniques and suggest their own ideas for what could come next and interpret their data. It's just a big, usually if they haven't done research before, they learn a lot in that short period of time.